Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you, especially if you like to be superhuman. Gary Brecka is back in the house.
Awesome. Thanks for having me back.
Guys,
I love being here.
Well, I love when you're here because we get healthier, we upgrade, we level up.
Yeah.
As we 10x our health. Now, what were you called before Grant came and stamped you with the 10x
Streamline Medical Group.
Streamline, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So folks, if you guys don't know who Gary Brecka is, Gary Brecka owns Streamline Medical Group. He was, I would say, almost famous for being able to look at people's blood work and tell them within a month of when they were going to die.
And just to clarify that, because I get a lot of flack on social media for that, it wasn't there is no blood test or gene test that we do that tells you when you're going to die. And you won't find any videos, any podcasts, anything on Instagram, any statement I've ever made where I said, hey, I can look at a blood test and a gene test and tell you how many more months you have to live. We need 5 years of medical records and 5 years of demographic data. That was my previous career. And in my previous career working for the insurance company, we would take 5 to 10 years of medical records and 5 to 10 years of demographic data. And with that information, we could zero in within a month on your predicted date of death, with a very high degree of certainty.
That's how the insurance companies determine whether they're going to insure you.
That's exactly right. I mean, and people say that's complete nonsense. If you could do that, you would have won a Nobel Prize. Well, I didn't invent the science. I certainly was not the brains behind the mortality probabilistic modeling system. But if you want to know how accurate it is, the largest population database in the world is held by the insurance companies. So life insurance is the polar opposite of Google and Facebook. They collect voluminous amounts of information on you, but they don't share it back with anyone. And what they have that no other medical institution has is they know the day, the date, the time, the location, and the cause of death for every single person that they've insured. You need to provide them that information to get a death claim. See, a medical study, a clinical study, a practitioner, a doctor, a physician, a university doesn't have any of that information. If I'm a cardiologist and you come in to see me and I put a stent in your heart and then you leave my office, I don't know if you died 2 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later. I don't know if you died of a complication related to that stent or if you died of cancer or if you just died of old age.
Yeah.
Insurance companies know precisely what you died of. They know exactly what medications you're taking. They know precisely what your blood work looked like when they took out the life insurance policy. And very often they have gene information on you. And they actually go from the day, date, time, location, and cause of death, and they triangulate that back to what precipitated that. And yes, you can predict mortality to the month. Now, does that mean that you're predicting whether or not a plane falls out of the sky or they get assaulted and die of an act of violence, or they fall off the curb and bump their head? No, it doesn't mean that it works all the time in every person. What it means is, what is the statistically most likely point at which this person will pass to the month?
Perish, expire.
Now, again, without extenuating circumstances, without a plane crash or a bus or a car or a gunshot wound. But given the current state of affairs, meaning what does their blood work look like? What are their comorbidities? What are their morbidity factors? What are their lifestyle choices? What is their demographic data? How many more months does this person have left on Earth? And if you want to know how accurate that science is, when I practiced that form of probabilistic modeling prediction for almost 22 years. If you want to know how accurate that science is, just look at the life insurance companies. When in 2008, 2009, when the financial services collapse happened, we lost 364 banks. We did not lose a single life insurance company, not one. There has not ever been an incident where a valid life insurance claim has failed to have been paid in America, not once. So why are they so solvent? Because they bet on one variable, right? When you're a hedge fund or an investment group, or you're an angel investor and you're going to invest money in a company, nobody makes an investment of any consequence on a single variable. Well, I'm betting that this CEO will remain at the company for a lifetime. I will bet that they will never lose this one customer. You don't bet on a single variable. A life insurance company takes risk on one variable. Only one thing matters. When is this person going to die? How many more months or years of premium collection am I going to have before I actually pay out that death claim? And if you don't think that that's valid science, then you know very, very little about life insurance. They are some of the most solvent institutions on the planet. None of them failed in the financial services crisis. If you look at the collapse of AIG, the only division that held that company afloat was the insurance division. right? It wasn't the financial services side. It was the insurance side. So they're extraordinarily accurate. If a life insurance company refuses to put life insurance on your life, sometimes they won't give you a reason. There's a rationale for that. We knew about the opioid crisis 10 years before they were talking about addictive amyloids.
By the way, if anyone needs life insurance, go ahead and hit me in the DM. Just put life insurance. I'll have one of my agents reach out to you.
Awesome. And what you're going to see right now, if you want to see, and I'm not taking a position on the vaccine one way or the other, but if you watch life insurance trends, what you're going to find is if you were vaccinated, you can get preferred, not super preferred coverage. If you were vaccinated and double boosted, you may be able to get standard coverage. You will not get preferred. If you're vaccinated and triple boosted, you won't be able to get standard coverage. You'll be table rated. If you're quadruple boosted, you will not be able to get life insurance.
Dude, that's serious.
Yeah.
But how do you justify continuing to push? I just saw a commercial the other day. We should get our babies, our infants vaccinated now. That's what they're saying. And they're not even at risk, but yet we're supposed to go get them vaccinated from a vaccination that is going to cause you not to be insurable.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it is happening now. And
have you seen that video called "Died Suddenly"?
Yes. I mean, that's horrifying. But, you also have to be careful not to jump to conclusions and say, okay, well, every reporter that, dies behind the camera or a professional athlete that drops on the field is not necessarily linked to the vaccine. But when you also start to look at, we used to study population mortality, 1,500 and change cardiac related deaths in 14 months following the inception of the vaccine that related to myocarditis in young men. There were the same number of deaths in professional sports in the previous 52 years. That's statistically significant. But when you talk about children, especially, oh my gosh, infants 6 months to 5 years old, you got to ask yourself, why would I give this infant a vaccine? What am I vaccinating against? What is the risk that I'm trying to mitigate? Because I'm a believer in real vaccines that prevent infection, that prevent spread. But when you say, what's the risk that you're mitigating against? Well, there is a statistically insignificant risk of both mortality and severe illness in infants and children, especially sub 5 years old. So there is no statistical reason to vaccinate them. There's a statistically insignificant risk that they will die in a car accident on the way to school, but we still take them to school. There's a statistically insignificant risk that, they could get food poisoning and have a life-threatening reaction. They could have an anaphylactic shock from a bee sting. So there are all kinds of risks in their life. What we do is we try to find the statistically valid risks that impose real threat, and we vaccinate or, try to protect against those risks. I think you have a greater risk of dying of a random bee sting not knowing that you are allergic to bees than you do of actually having a death in a 6-month-old or 5-year-old from COVID. And then when you add that to the fact that none of us have long-term safety data, I can't sit here and rip the vaccine apart over a long period of time because I don't have safety data, but neither does Big Pharma or anyone else. Nobody's physician has long-term safety data. When they started the Operation Warp Speed wasn't a fast development of a vaccine. The vaccine only took about 90 minutes. You take the nucleocapsid of a virus and you essentially manufacture a counter nucleocapsid protein, which that would create an antibody, and then you do 10 years of testing to determine whether or not that's safe. Well, you just weighed the safety trials. You didn't actually increase the speed at which we created the vaccine. You just waived all of the reasons that we use to protect the public. We waived safety data, and we called that Operation Warp Speed. So now we just don't know. It's just one giant experiment on humankind. And hopefully it goes well.
But we do know it's not looking well.
Right now, there is a lot of anecdotal evidence that looks terrible. You look at the parabolic spike in myocarditis, transverse myelitis, trigeminal neuralgias, strokes, and actually the form and type of strokes. These strokes, clot formations called thrombolytic thrombocytopenia, special formation in the platelets.
Hey, how do you learn all this shit? Because you're not a doctor.
No, I'm not a physician.
But you know tons more than most that I've met. How do you learn it all?
I found out when I was in the 8th grade that I was clinically photographic. And a clinical level of photographic recall is different than people that have a photographic memory. Clinical photographic recall is that I remember every single thing that I read, which is why I can't read for pleasure. I mean, I can't be on a flight and pick up the American Airlines seatback magazine and start thumbing through it, because I'll tell you 6 months from now, where the sales office is for a hotel project in Buenos Aires. Right. I'll remember the address. I used to do a trick when I would go to dinner with different couples. I'd have like 6 or 8 people around a table. And at the beginning of dinner, I'd have everybody pass me their driver's license. And I'd look at their driver's license for a minute, and then I'd hand it back out to everybody. And then at the end of dinner, I would tell everybody their driver's license number, their date of birth, the expiration date, and when the license was issued.
That's almost like a superhuman ability.
Yeah, so I can just regurgitate voluminous amounts of information. So sometimes when people say a word to me, I snap back and I just pull forward either that clinical study or that research trial. And then I rarely espouse my own opinion. I'm usually pulling from, research that I've
last time you were here,
read.
We were talking about cyanocobalamin.
Oh my God, I got so much flack for that.
Dude, you got the warning label stuck up and I think even suppressed on YouTube. They were shutting you down and saying, this guy, don't listen to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's 4 forms of B12 in the world, right? I mean, 3 of them occur naturally in nature. They're called hydroxycobalamin, adenosylcobalamin, and methylcobalamin. You can find them all over the surface of the earth. And then we make one in a laboratory. It's called cyanocobalamin. We make it from hydrogen cyanide.
Why do we make it?
In an effort to make less expensive synthetic vitamins. We try to make folate in a laboratory, and we call it folic acid. Folic acid doesn't occur anywhere naturally in nature. You can't find folic acid anywhere on the surface of the earth. So my position is that there's 4 forms of B12, and one of them synthetic, and one of them's made from hydrogen cyanide. In fact, we should probably just go to I'm going to go to the, can we show this on the podcast if I actually pull up a website?
Well, not audio, but if you guys go to YouTube right now, this video will be on YouTube. Okay. So I can put it in the YouTube video.
Okay, let's put it in the YouTube video, because I want to show why am I...
And also tell them, in this case it's audio, where to go look for themselves.
Okay, so if you just type in the word cyanocobalamin, cyano.
And by the way, this is like in my protein drinks. It's in your vitamins.
It's in all kinds of stuff. It's in protein
cereal.
drinks. It's in supplements. It's
all over the place.
Yeah, so you go to cyanocobalamin, and you cyanocobalamin, cyanocobalamin. And I get like I said, I got a lot of flack for this, so I'll just let everybody else decide for themselves. I'll throw the evidence out there that I read and brought me to my conclusion, and let them read it themselves and decide what they want to do. So you can type in cyanocobalamin, put a space, and put the word PubChem. And then click on that link. It's going to take you to the National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health. I've already memorized this page, so I don't know why I'm looking at it. But, it'll take you to the National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health. When you get there, if you want to read the component compounds, what it's made out of, you scroll down to section 5.3. It'll say component compounds. The second link there says it's made of the cobalt metal, which all B12 is. And the next one, it says it's made of hydrogen cyanide. Well, click on that. When you click on hydrogen cyanide, you'll find it's a flammable, acute toxic, environmental hazard, health hazard. That's what it's listed as.
Well, what's just plain cyanide?
Hydrogen cyanide is, cyanide is a deadly poison. The next sentence says, other uses for hydrogen cyanide. We use them in chemical weapons. So we use the hydrogen cyanide that is bound to the cobalt metal in chemical weapons. We list the hydrogen cyanide as an acute toxic, environmental hazard, health hazard, and it's flammable. In fact, if you're using that form of B12 as it's manufactured, the driver that transports that powder has to wear a hazmat suit, has to have a flammable transport license, has to have a hazardous waste disposal license, and can't come in contact with that vitamin. Right, so just think about that for a second.
But we ingest it.
And then, we ingest it. And then I had some internet troll that loves to troll me, some half-baked PhD that said, Gary's trying to scare the world with cyanocobalamin, and everyone knows that, that you'd have to take 2,500 times the dosage in order to have a toxic level, because the dose determines the poison, which is the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard in my life. The dosage does not determine the poison. You have a bunch of, supposed academics that like to say that, but if the dosage determine the poison, nobody would have mercury poisoning, right? The FDA and the CDC both say that their non-toxic levels of mercury are 0.045 micrograms. So you can ingest 0.045 micrograms of mercury and it's non-toxic. But nobody gets a toxicity level from a single dose of mercury. It's the cumulative dose toxicity that matters. So what if you're taking this in your protein powders and your supplements and your energy drinks and you're taking a hydrogen cyanide, flammable, acute toxic environmental hazard that's accumulating in your tissues? And by the way, the body can't even use cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is useless in the human body. The human body converts it to something called hydroxycobalamin. So why would you force your body to do that anyway? So if the dosage determine the poison, then I guess you're fine with small doses of mercury, small doses of lead, small doses of arsenic, small doses of hydrogen cyanide. And that's one way to think about it. Carrageenan, a known carcinogen that we put as a thickening agent in a lot of our protein powders and drinks. Carrageenan, a single ounce of carrageenan is not going to cause you colon cancer, but it is highly linked to colon cancer. So do you want to keep bombarding yourself with microdoses of carrageenan? So it's so nonsensical to say that the dosage determines the poison. That's the most false statement I've ever heard in my life.
Well, Gary, what I want to know is how are these agencies that are supposedly there to protect the consumer?
Because like these internet trolls, they believe, like these internet trolls, like some of these trolls will say the dosage determines the poison. The FDA takes the same position. They take the position of single dose toxicity. If it's not toxic in a single dose, let's give it to the public.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Cumulative dose toxicity is what we should worry about. By the way, that's what Europe uses.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. Let's say I gave you a glass of water and I just put a little tiny fraction of shit in it.
Yeah, a little mercury.
Feces. Not mercury.
Shit.
I put a little fraction of it in there. Would you drink it?
Probably not. I'd rather have the shit-free water if you don't mind.
It's mostly all water.
I know.
This little shit ain't gonna hurt you.
The dosage determines the poison. It's just a little bit of shit.
Yeah, it's the whole mindset to me. It's like, dude, if these agencies are there to protect, I would say, now what is this? Coagulant, or what'd you call it?
Carrageenan.
What is it? Oh, it's a sludge.
Agent. Yeah.
Oh, what's it for? Oh, it's to thicken the stuff. Okay. You have nothing else that you can thicken it with?
Highly linked to colon cancer. There are numerous animal studies.
The answer would be no. You can't put that in our food.
Yeah.
Period.
By the way, it's illegal in Europe. There are 1,800 compounds that are legal in the United States that are not legal in Europe. And all I try to do is expose some of these to say, hey, if you're making a choice, and by the way, you don't have to buy my vitamins, you don't have to take my test, you don't have to go to my website. I'm just telling you right now, if you got supplements with cyanocobalamin, throw those in the trash and get ones with methylcobalamin. I would much rather drink do
you know which ones they are? Because like every time I look, there's cyanocobalamin.
Yeah, cyanocobalamin's in like Celsius and Monster, but it's not in Bang. Methylcobalamin's in Bang, so I would prefer to drink a Bang if I was going to drink an energy drink. Really good organic protein powders. A lot of them don't use folic acid and they don't use cyanocobalamin.
I got to get a different
because these are all
drink,
synthetic forms. I mean, just think if it's necessary for optimal health, do you think that it's probably a synthetic chemical or pharmaceutical? Do you think any of those things are actually necessary compounds for the human body if we make it in a laboratory?
No. So
my only point is, most of the people that are listening to me are my patients that are having life-changing results. A lot of it is what I'm having them not do. Right? Getting seed oils out of their body, getting seed oils out of their diet. When you look at the back of a label and you see, okay, this has sunflower oil and safflower oil and canola oil. And all those things sound great. Sunflower, safflower.
Yeah, sunflower seeds. Aren't those good for you?
So the seed oils are terrible, man. If you actually saw how something like a canola oil was processed, right? I mean, when they actually first made canola oil, and I think canola oil and Crisco were originally meant to be machine lubricants. The oil comes out very thick and gummy. So they use something called hexane, a known neurotoxin, to degum the sludge first. So now they use the neurotoxin to degum it. And once it's degummed, they heat it. And they usually heat it to over 450 degrees, which turns the oil rancid. If you've ever actually been to a canola oil factory, it is the most god-awful place on earth. It's just absolutely rancid fat burning. And once it becomes rancid, it stinks. So then they have to deodorize it with sodium hydroxide, a very highly known carcinogen. And after it becomes carcinogenic and neurotoxic and heated till it's rancid, then they bleach it so the oil is clear. I'm not making this up.
I know, and then they bottle it and they put
it on the shelf.
And it's allowed.
Yeah.
See, this is the whole point. Like, how is it allowed?
Yeah. Like one of the trends that we saw in life insurance.
Hold on though, but why is it allowed?
It's allowed because, big pharma and the food industry is in the back pocket of the government. I mean, did you see the food pyramid that just came out? Joe Rogan posted?
Yes.
It's mind-numbing. The
I
fifth
couldn't
thing
even
on there
believe that was real.
Lucky Charms.
They said Lucky Charms was better than steak.
Lucky Charms was better than steak. There are 11 different food dyes before you get to the grains sprayed with folic acid and the sugar and the grains, which are terrible for you anyway.
Listen, I want to make sure before we run out of time, because every episode you're on, we talk forever and say so much. And then when you leave, I'm like, dude, I wanted to ask all these questions. So this time I want to talk at least a little bit about being superhuman.
Oh, superhuman. Yeah.
Because I'm interested in superhuman. But you also said something about folic acid.
Yes.
That everyone was like, bullshit, whatever that was.
Oh, that's another one. You know, I get called out for folic acid all the time too. About 44% of the world's population has a gene mutation called MTHFR.
I've got it.
Yes. I won't tell you what the nickname is.
And by the way, folks, if you guys want to take the test, and I highly recommend everybody take this test because it'll give you some insight that you can use to prevent a lot of shit. Where do they take the test?
Just go to 10X, the number 10, the letter X, healthtest.com. At 10xhealthtest.com, you order the gene test. You'll do it once in your life. It's $600. Everybody's like, why can't you make the test more affordable? It's $600. You do it once in your life.
Yeah, that's pretty affordable.
And then you don't have to buy my supplements. You can buy somebody else's supplements, but most of us are just guessing on what we need to supplement with. We're supplementing for the sake of supplementing, and we're accepting a degradation in our baseline sense of normalcy, you know, where we consider our normal baseline to be. We're not sleeping well because our mind's keeping us awake. You know, we've got gut issues like, you know, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, cramping, because we actually have slowed down the motility of the gut. We've got mood issues, you know, mild depression, anxiety, and all of these things do have links. And I will put the links to the clinical research this time below the podcast. They have links to genetic mutations. They have links to a process called methylation. Methylation is the most important process that all human beings go through.
And just to note to my team, make sure that these links are in the podcast before it drops. Don't let me see this without the links. I want to see the links.
Then false information or what have you. The interesting thing is the agency that flagged me for false information was actually the agency that I quoted the link from and had on the last podcast. So I actually took it from their website and reposted it, and then they cited it as false information. I thought that was really oxymoronic. I was like, I got this from your website. But
people are always cynical. You know, you're just trying to sell me your pills. It's like, dude,
I am trying to sell you a gene test. I think every human being on the planet should spend $600 once in their lifetime, find out what genetic mutations you have, and then never guess what supplement you need to take for the balance of your lifetime. So yes, I am here to sell you a gene test for $600. I'll throw that right out there.
And more importantly, if you have this gene, MTFR or whatever it's called, I call it the motherfucker.
Yeah, that's the nickname for it. Methylene tetrahydrofolate.
If you got the motherfucker gene, there's specific and easy things you can do to improve your life dramatically.
Very simple. And I am starting a series of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patient interviews where we show before and afters, before labs and after labs, without a whole lot of money being spent. And I put the patient on there to tell their own story. So our clinical team gets the blood work and the genetic test. They write a treatment protocol, sometimes a diet, sometimes exercise and lifestyle changes, and very often a specific set of supplements. And then we watch the changes that happen in the blood over 10 weeks, and then we post the changes in the blood. You can't make up the changes in the blood.
Well, we're going to do it with
facts
me.
Are facts.
So
yeah. And superhuman, you know, is... superhuman is just essentially about taking everything that's good about Mother Nature and bringing it from the outside in. All right. And I don't expect by any stretch for people to put up 140 or 150 grand to buy the superhuman equipment and put it in their house.
Which I'm going to do.
Yeah, you're going to do it because you can afford it. I mean, I have hundreds of patients that have done that.
By the way, I have people that can afford it listening. I would highly recommend these units as well. If you want more information, just go to 10xhealth.com.
Oh, I would have a PMF mat, Hypermax oxygen, and a red light bed before I have a sports car. But
is that PMF mat the one you lay on like right before you go to sleep?
Pulse electromagnetic field. It runs low Gauss current through the body, right? If you want to change the charge in the body, pH is a charge, right? And we know that as we get slightly more alkaline, it's very beneficial for us. So we go from acidic to alkaline. So if you want to change the pH in the blood, it's a complete fallacy that you can do that by drinking alkaline water, right? In molecular chemistry, something can't donate its properties and also maintain them. So if you want to actually change the charge in the body, you run low Gauss current through the body, the same current that you would get if you put bare feet on the surface of the earth. And that's why I say, so there's a $150,000 solution, buy all this fancy equipment, put it in your house, or go to one of our centers and use it on a membership basis. But there's a free solution. And I want to make sure that I emphasize the free, because if we're going to make an impact on humanity, then we have to give people things that they could do tomorrow that would have a positive impact, on their state of optimal health, and that don't cost them anything. So if you think about the last time you had bare feet touching bare soil, I mean dirt, grass, sand, not on top of pavement or wood or carpet. The last time you had bare feet touching soil or sand, that was the last time that you earthed or grounded. Human beings discharge into the earth. We actually build up a charge and we discharge into the earth. You can change the pH of the body by actually coming in contact with the earth. And so if you don't want to put up the money for equipment in your home, you can take your shoes off and walk on the surface of the earth. And yes, you can do this for short periods of time, even if it's cold outside. And the second thing you can do is, we use oxygen. We get magnetism from the earth. We get oxygen from the air, and we get light from the sun. So if you don't want to buy a hypermax oxygen system, which will cost you $5,000, you can learn to do breath work, and breath work is free. Wim Hof is my favorite method. I mean, his teachings are all over the internet. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that every single day without failure, I do 3 rounds of 30 breaths. I spend 8 minutes breathing every morning. I will miss a commercial flight to not miss breath work. What is psycho about it.
What does the breath work do for you?
So what it does is, Wim Hof and now other follow-up clinical research has proven that actually breath work is more powerful than meditation. Human podcast just had a little episode on this. I'm a big fan of Huberman. They've proven that you can change the oxygen tension in your tissue through breath work. I have a saying after 22 years of spending my life in the mortality space, predicting death to the month. And yes, we predicted death to the month. I have a saying that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And there is nothing more profound or true than that statement. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. I challenge any physician or healthcare practitioner to give me a single disease etiological pathway of any kind that does not have its roots in a lack of blood oxygen. Hypoxia. All cancer begins in a hypoxic environment. So what we want to do is we want to get more oxygen into the blood. We want to raise our mood. Did I get a bomb for that?
That one for sure.
Dude, that was awesome.
Because, dude, that's the cause of it all.
Oh, that's the cause of it all. So, if you raise the oxidative state in the body, you actually raise your mood, you raise your emotional state. You know that elevated emotional tiers, emotions like passion, elation, joy, arousal, libido, every single one of these emotional states, as a component of its molecular structure, require oxygen.
Well, when you say 30 breath works,
3 rounds of 30 breaths.
Do you get lightheaded?
You will get lightheaded. I don't get lightheaded anymore because I've been doing it for so long, and I've actually increased my breath hold now to 4 minutes.
Hold?
Yeah, so I can exhale on my 30th breath and hold my breath for 4 minutes. And then I take a deep breath in, I hold for about a minute, and then I start over again.
Where do we learn this technique?
So Wim Hof is the greatest teacher, but you can also go to my Instagram at Gary Brecka, GaryBrecka. And all I really try to do is teach on Instagram. So you can go there, and I have on my Instagram, I have a explanation of how to do the breath work. And so what we're doing is,
people can start that tomorrow.
Dude, they can start it tomorrow. They can start walking on the earth tomorrow. I'm telling you what to do for zero. If I had no money, I would wake up every day. I'd walk on the earth. I'd breathe. I'd do a 45-minute walk outside and take an ice cold shower. Add zero to your budget and change the entire trajectory of your life.
And that doesn't include pavement.
It doesn't include pavement, but if you have no other choice, it's better to do that. Now, look, if you live in New York, you need to spring the $5,000 for a PMF mat, and you need to blow the EMF frequency, the 5G, the microwave out of your body. If you want to see how much EMF you're getting right now, you can go to a website called antennasearch.com. Antenna, ANTENNA A-E.
Well, that's antennae.
Antenna, ANTENNA, search.com. I said I was smart. I didn't say I could spell. So antennasearch.com, put in your zip code. It will tell you exactly how many cell towers you have within a radius that's close enough to interfere with your cellular energy. Usually 5G towers. The shoe has not dropped on 5G yet. You wait till the shoe drops on 5G because human beings are a giant ball of frequency.
So these PMF mats will fix that.
The PMF mats will blow that frequency right out of your body.
Every day. Do you lay it on every day?
I put it under my mattress, not under my mattress, on top of my mattress, under the pad, and it's set to go off in the morning. It gets both my wife and I because it's right down the center of our bed. So it puts a wave out about 6 feet in either direction. So you will wake up alkaline every morning of your life. I'm a huge believer in that. If you don't want to spring for the $5,000, then get outside and get in contact with the earth. If you don't want to spring for the hypermax, then learn to do 3 rounds of 30 breaths. Your diaphragm will massage your intestines. You'll raise your emotional state. You'll raise your mood. You'll flood the blood with oxygen. That lightheaded feeling is the change of oxygen tension in your tissues. You should feel lightheaded. Your lips might go numb. Your fingers and toes would tingle. Those are all great signs.
And so all you do is breathe in 30 times.
30 times. So you wanted to pretend like you have a string attached to your belly button and you're trying to pull your belly button out to the opposite wall. So you throw your belly button out and then suck the air into the apex of your lungs. You want to fill the lobes and then the apex. So belly out and then your chest up. Right? And you're filling the lungs with oxygen. You're using the diaphragm to massage the intestines. You're elevating your mood. You're elevating your emotional state. I mean, if you actually look at the cascade of neurotransmitters involved in emotion, you'd find that elevated emotional states require oxygen. Diminished emotional states do not. So anger, despair, jealousy, resentment, these emotional states require no oxygen, right? This is why no human being has ever woken up laughing. No human will ever wake up laughing. Why? Because you don't have the oxidative state to experience laughter. But can you wake up angry? Of course you can. Pinch your spouse tonight while they're dead asleep. Give it a shot. They will, instantly wake up. What the heck are you doing? You can wake up angry because anger does not require oxygen. The emotional state of anger does not require oxygen as a component of its structure. The emotional state of passion does. So you want to feel passion or you want to feel anger? Do you ever wonder why people can't sustain elevated emotional states and they spend a lifetime looking at, self-help and motivational and waking up in gratitude and prayer and meditation and seminars, and they're doing all the right things, but they just can't maintain an elevated emotional state. Their physiology is dragging them back down into the state where they most comfortably exist. If we would raise our physiologic state by breathing, we would exist in a higher vibration. It's simple and it's free.
What's the superhuman component?
So the superhuman component is magnetism, oxygen, and light. That's what we get from Mother Nature. We get magnetism from the earth, we get oxygen from the air, and we get light from the sun. If I could take all the beneficial rays from the sun, delete the UVA and UVB harmful rays, and put them in a light bed, that's what you would have in the superhuman protocol.
Yeah. So the PMF mat takes care of the grounding.
Yeah.
But the breath work, what takes care of the breath work?
The breath work takes care of what we call the second part of superhuman, which is the hypermax oxygen.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then exposure to sunlight.
So, but if you can't afford the superhuman protocols, you don't have to do the breath work.
If you can afford the superhuman protocol, you don't need to do the breath work because you're going to put an oxygen mask on and you're going to breathe 95% O2 under mild exercise for 10 minutes every day. So you're going to wake up alkaline. You're going to walk down the hall. You're going to put an oxygen mask on, and an oxygen concentrator is going to take 21% O2 from the ambient air, and it's going to fill a bag full of 95% O2. You're going to put an oxygen mask on. You're going to walk on a treadmill. Or you're going to cycle on a bike for 10 minutes. That's it. Exercise with oxygen therapy. E. Watt, the only two-time Nobel laureate Prize winner in the world, 2 Nobel Prizes in medicine. Dr. Otto Warburg won both Nobel Prizes for his work in exercise with oxygen therapy. He was able to cure, and I'm using his words, cure the top 200 diseases in the world at the time by using oxygen and raising people's heart rates. And a lot of his research was actually acquired and then retired, actually taken out of the public domain.
Of course.
So kind of makes you want to be a conspiracy theorist.
Well, dude, I mean, the conspiracies are turning out to be true. You heard the government has now confirmed that the CIA, I think, or the government, let's just say, was involved in JFK's assassination.
Wow, strange.
Did you know that?
Next thing you know, we're going to find out they were involved in Princess Diana.
But I just don't
Right on the
understand.
logo.
Like if that's been confirmed, why is nobody saying anything?
Just astounding.
Why, if coaguin or whatever the hell you said, Carrageenan, why, if we know that that's a sewage, cancer-causing nonsense garbage, why is any amount allowed in our food?
I agree.
And then again, when you
why are we allowed to take non-toxic compounds, turn them toxic before we sell them to the public?
Dude, what about
take a seed, press the oil, turn it toxic, feed it to the public? Why are we allowed to do that?
A friend of mine and my wife and his wife went to Italy, and his wife was she couldn't eat cheese. What's that called?
Lactose.
Yeah, lactose intolerant. She couldn't eat cheese, couldn't eat this, she couldn't eat ice cream. She was heavy duty lactose intolerant. Well, she was starting to eat the ice cream there, and she was starting to eat the cheese there, and everything was fine. And she could not believe that she was able to eat this stuff.
Same thing with bread. I actually just got back from a 6-country tour in Europe. We did London, Paris, Stade, Switzerland, Munich, and Germany, and Poland. And I don't ever eat bread. I mean, that's just, I don't eat white flour, white rice, white pasta, or white potatoes. And
that's all you eat?
I don't eat any of those.
You don't eat white rice?
I don't eat white rice or white flour.
Why not?
Or white bread or
white rice
pasta
is bad?
or white potatoes. I just don't eat the very high glycemic carbs. White rice is actually better for you than brown rice. And if you get the organic version, it can be great for you. It just doesn't have a lot of nutrition in it. It's a filler. I'd rather eat cauliflower rice and with grass-fed butter. Because you're just getting calories and no nutrition. But the point is, to your point, I was able to eat, French baguettes. And I had zero problem with digestion because there's no seed oils and there's no folic acid, right? And then, you walk by a bakery or sandwich shop and, there's sandwiches in the window one day and the next day they're half price because it's day-old bread, because they know at the end of that day, they have to throw it out. So they made it on Monday. Tuesday, it's 50% off, and Tuesday night, it's gone. You can take a loaf of bread out of a supermarket in America and lay the bread on the counter for 15 days and still eat it, because of the processed seed oils and preservatives and the folic acid that's in there. And that's the stuff that's killing us.
Is that just all profiteering?
It's all profiteering. I mean, it's all profiteering. And, when we first discovered preservatives, they were actually called anti-digestives. When they first discovered a preservative and started spraying it on apples and things, they were like, hey, it prevents the digestion of the apple. It prevents what's called benzoquinone, the oxidation process of what makes an apple brown. But they realized, some smart marketing person said, hey, we can't call this an anti-digestive. Nobody's going to go to the anti-digestive section of the supermarket and buy fruits. So let's call it a preservative, right? The same way that we don't say sprayed with folic acid, we call it fortified or enriched, right? So 44% of kids have the gene mutation you were talking about. They can't process folic acid. And what do we give kids before they go off to school in the morning? We fill them up with folic acid. Folic acid is like cocaine for a 6-year-old with that gene mutation. It makes their mind race.
And when they can't process it, what happens?
It's a full contact sport to get them in the car to go to school. They get to school and the teacher calls home and says, hey, Johnny can't pay attention. He's disruptive. He doesn't follow directions. And we need to bring in the Ridellan to solve this issue, because they believe that if the mind is racing, you should put an amphetamine into the bloodstream to race the central nervous system to match the pace of the mind. But we created this situation. We created it by overstimulating the mind with folic acid that the kid can't break down. You strip the folic acid out of their diets, the Pop-Tarts, the white flour, white rice, white bread, white pasta,
everything they're eating.
It goes right back to normal.
So my kids, they probably have the motherfucker gene, or they do.
Mm-hmm.
And
dad's a motherfucker.
And every morning they're eating that same shit. So will that stuff you're going to send me?
You will notice an entirely different child in the home if you get the folic acid out of their diet. I'm not kidding you.
Well, but how?
Get everything that's fortified or enriched out of their diet.
So they're going to be eating carrots for breakfast?
No, they can. There's a great cereal called Magic Spoon, one of my favorites. It has as much protein as a dozen eggs.
What if they're like, I don't really like it? You just be forceful?
Well, then have, I mean, violence works now. No,
but I mean, we tend to like cave in because we don't want to hear the yang, yang,
so
yang,
you
yang.
get a Magic Spoon. You can feed them actual eggs, eggs, avocado, nuts, coconut
not
oil,
cereal.
olive oil.
Not Pop-Tarts.
Just not Pop-Tarts.
But what if you're taking that demethylene, whatever you call it? What do you call it?
5-methylfolate.
That.
So that cures the deficiency that you have, but it also doesn't address the sensitivity to folic acid. If you have that MTHFR gene mutation, which 44% of the population has, right? So 44% of the people that are listening to this have that gene mutation. You should be supplementing with methylfolate. Every pregnant woman should be supplementing with methylfolate, not folic acid, because when your OBGYN tells you to take folic acid, they are assuming your body can convert it. What they don't know, unless they know your genetic history, but everyone can use 5-methylfolate. So you want to take a woman that has postpartum depression and kill the postpartum depression, get her 5-methylfolate, because chances are she's taking a prenatal vitamin with 1,400% of the daily allowance of folic acid, and it's making her nuts. And a lot of times, when the pregnancy ends, they stop taking the prenatal vitamins, so the symptoms go away, and they blame it on the pregnancy, not on the vitamin. So I like to supplement those people with 5-methylfolate. But for children that have behavioral issues and ADD and ADHD and poor attention span and impulse control problem, this is almost always related back to folic acid and that gene mutation. And by the way, if it's not, it will cost you virtually nothing and will not hurt your child. Right? Ridellan, on the other hand, is expensive and could permanently alter the neuroplasticity of their brain. I love those. I love the sound effects.
Well, when it comes to kids, dude, that's my passion. Especially helpless, defenseless kids.
Yeah.
Once they're 16, 17, they're still technically kids, but they're grown up a little bit. I feel bad for the little ones that are literally defenseless, helpless. They'll eat what you provide, and you're providing garbage.
Right.
You're providing diabetes, you're providing the shit. And if you don't know, that's, understandable. But once you do know, then it's inexcusable.
I agree with you. Look, as kids as young as at the age where they can chew and swallow can supplement with methylated vitamins.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, if you guys are paying attention, you go to 10xhealthtest.com to get tested.
Yes.
And it's a simple thing. I've done it.
Do the test once in your life.
It's easy breezy, but it is $600.
It's $600.
And again, folks, if you guys think $600, you have a bigger issue, right? If you think $600 is too expensive to figure out this type of thing, dude, $600 divided into your entire life, it's nothing.
Yeah, you'll never repeat that test with your genes.
They'll go buy dinner a bunch of times. They'll dry clean prematurely. Do you guys dry clean without needing to? I literally will take off, because I like to try on shit. I look at it and not right. So I'll put on 4 or 5 outfits. I'll put them on the floor. I'll come home. They're gone. I have a magic floor. Did I tell you that? So it's cool. I can throw shit on the floor and it just gets put back where it goes. It's the most amazing thing. But it goes to the dry cleaners first. So literally I've got dry cleaning where I'm like, that wasn't dirty.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even wear that. I tried that on, but they're like, well, then don't leave it on the floor. But do you guys do that?
I don't do that.
You could blow that in dry cleaning is all I'm saying. You could blow it in dry cleaning, folks.
Yeah, you could easily do that. And then, there are lots of good supplement manufacturers out there, not just myself. I spent 2 years flying around the country, literally licensing every individual ingredient that I put into a supplement, but for the sake of not saying, sounding like I'm here to sell you a supplement. Thorn pure encapsulations. There are pharmaceutical grade Thorn, THORNE, like a thorn in your side.
Yeah. I just got a bottle of that. What's that do for you?
Well, there's Thorn is the brand, and they make all kinds of vitamins. I'm saying they're excellent brands out there, other than mine.
I got a bottle that says Thorn.
I want people to receive the information and not think that there's an agenda. My agenda is to sell you a gene test, for sure. I think every human being should do that test once in their lifetime. You're absolutely foolish not to do that, because if you don't know what your body converts and what it doesn't, you are absolutely guessing with supplementation. You are purely supplementing for the sake of supplementing and no other reason. So you don't know what your body needs.
Yeah, but once you take that, it tells you
exactly what you're deficient in. What your body can convert and what it can't.
Because when you say, I can't convert folic acid, well, how do you eliminate folic acid out of everything you eat?
Try to trim folic acid. You can't eliminate it all, but you want to get rid of the deficiency that comes from the inability to convert folic acid into the active form, which is methylfolate. Right.
But that's just a supplementation I take.
Yeah, it's a supplementation.
That's easy. Anyone can do that.
Yeah, and
if you said, Brad, eliminate folic acid, it's doubtful. But take this supplement.
And
easy.
there's complete nonsense that you can get it from eating a clean diet. That's absolutely not true. I mean, the last time we did a soil lineage study in the United States was 1941. We are so devoid of essential minerals and nutrients. We're so devoid of key absorbable forms of vitamins and amino acids. Supplementation is a good idea when you know what you're deficient in. Supplementing for deficiency is excellent. Supplementing for the sake of supplementing is nonsensical. But I don't think that anyone would be able to convince me, regardless of their background, unless they brought me hard evidence that you can get the nutrients that you need to be in a state of optimal health purely from a clean diet. I don't care how clean your diet is.
Now, if you guys want to be superhuman, you got a little means to you. Where would they go to check that out?
You can go to 10xhealthtest.com and you can get the PMF mat that we just talked about. If you just want to order that, you could get the Hypermax Oxygen if you want that, or if you want the full superhuman protocol, you can buy the whole deal. And then you lay in a red light bed, and you know, red light bed has been FDA approved for things like skin, collagen, elastin, and fibrin. So we know that the
Grant
longer...
said kid is doing amazing shit for his skin.
Look at Grant Cardone. He looks 15 years younger than when he started, working with me, when he started using that. He does not look, act, or perform like a 65-year-old man. I'd like to think I don't look or act or perform like a 52-year-old man, but the longer you use it, the more youthful appearance.
I act like a 54-year-old man.
No, you don't.
Obviously, that's what I'm saying.
My age not so long ago.
Like, dude, you guys need to get all the superhuman protocol right into my house. So all this gets credited to you guys.
All right, I'm in.
All this.
Hey, we're going to do the blood test today. We're going to come back in 10 weeks and show the results.
Yeah, I want to be your guinea pig.
Let's do it
on that.
Let's do it.
So folks, listen, 10xhealthtest.com. Go get that. Superhuman, basically, that's all the machines. He just told you exactly how to do it without the machines, without spending a dime. Go check out the links below the podcast. Look at the studies for yourself, and follow this dude at Gary Brecka on Instagram, or just Google 10X Health Gary Brecka. You'll find him. Appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Folks, as always, until next time, keep it real.
Dropping bombs with the real Bradley. Subscribe now.